We discover the no fluff action steps to help you avoid all the overwhelm and all the BS out there, connecting you with the right mentors, resources, and tools, helping you every step of the way on your entrepreneurial journey. We go live here twice a week, interviewing different entrepreneurs and experts on all areas of business. So make sure to join our Facebook group and look out for the events inside your entrepreneur resources page. You can find all the links in the description box. Our guest for today is Jessica Chinyelu. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm so excited for this interview. Jessica is the creator of the Sponsored and Secured, a program that helps organizations grow their sponsorship revenue in a systematic and reliable way. She teaches you how to craft win-win relationships through her proven methods that have transformed the way global influencers and organizations increase their cash flow. In this interview with Jessica, we'll be discussing the five-phase sponsorship sales process. I am so excited because, as you guys know, I am an event organizer and I've worked with sponsors. I've been, like hustling and trying to get sponsors for the longest time. And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. So I'm super, super excited to chat more about sponsorships with Jessica today. But before we get started, do you mind telling us a little bit more about you and your business?
Yes. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here and to share more details about the five-phase sponsorship sales process. But just to share a little bit about me, I am a corporate sponsorship strategist and consultant. And what that means is I help people land the partnerships of their dreams. My services, I offer them to people in three different ways. So one, of course, is the Sponsored and Secured program. The second way is through VIP sponsorship strategy days. And the third way is a done-for-you service. So an agency model where I and my team, we will go out and actually secure those sponsors and partners for our clients. I have so much fun doing it, but outside of the work that I do as a sponsorship strategist and consultant, I also am a wife and a mom. And, of course, all the great things that I do because ultimately of them so that way we can live the life of our dreams.
Absolutely. That's amazing. What do you think that sponsorship works for every type of entrepreneur? Like, I know that, obviously for events, you need sponsors, but what about people that are, coaches or service providers? Could they use sponsors in their business?
Oh, absolutely. And so you have to understand there are different types of partnerships. So today, we'll primarily focus on event partnerships or sponsorships, but there's also, digital marketing sponsorships where you are the influencer. But if you are a coach or an expert and you have an expertise where you really want to now go and position yourself to be an expert on that company's platform or an ambassador, and not just through events, but maybe you hosting your own workshops to talk more about that company's products, absolutely 100%. There is opportunity out there for you. I think that a lot of us have to get out of that mindset of the only way to have a partnership or be sponsored by a brand is through influencer marketing or through, working with the marketing department. There are other ways to work with brands, so we've got to get out of just the events and influencer marketing.
I love this so much because I'm all about partnerships and collaborations. And this itself is a partnership, isn't it? Like having you come on my podcast, and then, for example, doing guest blogging, doing IG live, going live together, doing an interview together, going on YouTube collaborations, like all these different things. They're all partnerships, and it's sponsorship. There's money transaction or maybe like free products or whatever, but like the most important part is like building that partnership and that relationship to kind of maximize each other and like helping each other grow in different ways, right? So yeah,
Right.
partnerships is so incredible. I love it. Like I love working with people. This is like amazing.
Oh, yeah. And if you were that type of person that, really loves connecting and relationship building and partnerships are all about truly collaboration. And if you have really good ideas on how you can highlight a brand, like you mentioned, like if it's through a YouTube partnership or an Instagram live or an interview, absolutely they're more than likely going to want to work with you.
Absolutely. Okay, let's dive in and go through that five-phase sponsorship sales process then. What are they? Give it all to us.
Yes. So let's first start with phase one. Phase one in the sponsorship sales process is all about identifying and prospecting. When you think about identifying and prospecting, this is your time to really put together your foundational pieces. So prospecting is, I'm not necessarily reaching out, but I'm doing loads of research to see who are my best fit brands or companies that truly align with the opportunity that I'm presenting. But before you even present, you also want to make sure you fully understand what opportunities do I have available to these potential partners once I do pitch. So you have to look at the overall big picture of what your offerings are. If you don't have any offerings, what can you put together? Also, does your website reflect everything that you're offering? Have you put these things in good pricing? Have you strategized what could potentially be the price? So that's phase one. You're prospecting, you're researching and seeing who's best fit, but also ensuring that you have all of your ducks in a row before you go out and pitching. Then you go into phase two, and this is where you go into much further research about the brands that you're reaching out to and what type of research does this entail. So let's say you're diving deeper into your prospecting process. The type of research that you would want to do is finding at least 3 to 5 different contacts within a company. I hear this all the time when people come to me and they said, well, nobody wants to sponsor me. No one responds back to my emails. And my next question to them is, first off, how many people did you reach out to? How many times did you follow up? So I think there's always, we have to look at it like this. There are over, in the US alone, just if you're only looking at companies or brands that are in the US, you've got over 5.7 million companies that are represented in the United States alone, which means that there's plenty of opportunity. And amongst those companies, you now have multiple decision makers. So did you actually take time to research the multiple decision makers and reach out to each person in order to get the sponsorship that you need? The majority of times, it's no. When I ask people how they respond, if they followed up or had multiple contacts. And so during this diving deeper into your phase two of prospecting further, you want to ensure you have multiple contacts within a brand. You have researched them, whether you've gone on LinkedIn or you found different articles about them, and you put those into your sales tracker to show that, okay, she loves this. She wrote an article about this, and I can make a point of reference to that whenever I send that initial pitch email. And that's what that phase two is all about. Again,
I want to. Yeah,
go
sorry.
ahead.
I love this because I love that you brought up a bunch of interesting things that I'm like, that's very interesting. For phase two, right? Like researching and reaching out to people. Do you reckon that it is important to kind of establish that relationship first before cold reaching, or what do you think about that?
So that's where we go into phase three.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I do think, and you can also do this during phase two. I do think that before you make an ask, before you go for that big ask, organically and genuinely connect with the individual that you are hoping to pitch and gain something from. So what does that look like? It means you don't necessarily have to hit the connection button on LinkedIn, but what you can do is, if on their page, if you see that they've written an article, go and comment on that article and say, wow, I absolutely love this article. If you have their email address, you can send them an email and just give them a shout out and say, I loved what you wrote, or I loved what your company is doing with this event. Just want to say kudos to you and your team for doing something so awesome like this. That's a really good way. I think you should touch someone anywhere from 3 to 5 times before you go in for your big ask. Now, that's a really good question. Now, when you officially move into phase 3, this is when you now start to do your outreach. And in that initial pitch email, based on all of the research that you've put together, you can create a customized experience in the email that you send out. So that means now you have things that you can reference to if it's an event that company has recently sponsored and you know for sure that they were one of the decision makers, or if they're, again, it's an article or a podcast that you listened to and they were podcast guests, or they were a speaker at an event and you heard them. you can make reference to that and actually say, I love when you said this. It deeply resonated with me. It really just makes it so great whenever you're able to make reference to those things. And then the next thing is, don't ask for money. Ask for a discovery call in that first initial email that you send over to them, because you want to make sure that, number one, they even are supporting things like what you're doing, that it truly aligns with their vision and their mission and their marketing goals for what they may have in the future, or the goals that they may have for their company, regardless if you're reaching out to a marketing department or an HR department or a sales department. It has to be a good fit and align. I see a big mistake that some people make is they are initially going for the big ask in that first initial pitch email. And there really shouldn't be a big ask. It should simply be, hey, can we hop on a call? And I'd like to share some ideas with you and see if this is even really a good fit. Because it may not be a good fit, and this may be an opportunity for us just to build a relationship. So that's phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. Now, I mean, it sounds like you got some follow-up questions to that.
Yeah, I do. My wheels are turning right now, and I do have some questions. I love that you talked about, the HR department, the sales department, the marketing department, right? But for example, if I were to reach out to a brand today and I'm like, okay, I really want them to sponsor. I think from the looks of things, we're a great fit. Who should I reach out to first? Because I don't want to go and reach out to 10 people inside the company. They'll be like, oh, is that a spam? So who should one person or the person with the title that I should focus on reaching out first?
Yes, great question. So there's so many different titles out there that you could be looking for. If you are an influencer and you're looking to partner with a brand for a digital marketing opportunity, clearly the person that you're going to be looking for is influencer marketing. You can type in director of influencer marketing. That's what you're looking for whenever you're searching on LinkedIn. And that's usually probably one of the first places that you'd want to search in order to find your best contact. The second thing that you can look for is, let's say you're wanting to get sponsored for an event. You could just simply search on LinkedIn, event sponsorships or partnerships. I usually go for director of partnerships or partnerships manager, or I might type in a keyword search inside of LinkedIn, sponsorships, just depending on if I'm looking at the company profile and trying to find anyone within the company that handles these specific things. Now, if you are someone who is a coach or an expert and you're looking to come on board to maybe provide some type of training to employees, at that point, you would likely want to go into human resources, director of human resources, or someone who is in the human resources department that handles employee development or development for human resources or for the company. If you are someone that is looking to provide your trainings, any of those type of things for employees, or maybe sell your services directly, that could very well be someone in the human resources department. But let's say maybe it's for a diversity and inclusion initiative or a social impact. You might want to search community engagement, director of community engagement, or diversity and inclusion director. Any of those type of titles or those things, identifiers are included in their titles. And LinkedIn really helps when you type in those keywords to help you find and identify employees within a brand that are within those departments and those titles that I just mentioned.
Absolutely. And I guess once you reach out to them after the initial reach out, if you don't hear back from them, I know you did mention follow up, and I know that following up, it's really, really important. Do you have any tips for us as to how long should we wait until we follow up, or should we continue following up through LinkedIn? If we reach out on LinkedIn, I need this. This is my own question.
Yes. So I usually recommend anywhere between 5 to 7 times. Usually by the 5th time of reaching out, at that point, by the 5th email, I've usually now reached out to someone else within the company. So I follow, let's say first day I send an email. If I don't hear back by the 3rd day, I'm sending an email on a follow-up email on the 4th day. If I haven't heard anything back by day 7, I'm sending another follow-up email. If I haven't heard anything back by day 14, I'm sending another follow-up email. So it's usually every 7 to 14 days, I'm following up. So you've got 1, 3, 7, 14, 21, and then after that, pretty much giving it a month before I follow up again.
Okay, that's amazing. And okay, this is another question that I think a lot of people probably have in mind right now. When you send out an email, do you usually put a deck with your email? So for example, oh, this is what the event's about, or I'm this kind of coach and I would like to work with you because of this, like a media kit, a pitch deck. Do you usually attach that as well?
I know, and my experience and where I've seen the most success is I do not include pitch decks because I feel like you're now giving so much away and they are now making a decision based off of if they want to chat with you or not based on what you sent over to them. I like to hop on a phone call first. Let's collaborate and brainstorm on ideas together. And then I shoot over a pitch deck. So I'll give you an example. Today I was on a call with a brand and they were really, really happy with the fact that they hadn't seen a pitch deck from us just yet. So we got on a call. They were actually very interested in working with us. When we hopped on that call, I told them one of the reasons, especially now, why we're not interested in just shooting you our pitch deck is because you have to think about it. There are companies that have not had they've honestly taken a fall and many losses due to the pandemic. And there are some companies that are thriving, and it's your responsibility to ask those questions to see how are things going? How are you guys doing? Did you have to pivot? Are you in a good place to do partnerships right now? And if so, how can we make this the best experience possible to help you meet your goals? That is literally something that I say on every single call that I get on with sponsors and potential sponsors. And today, this is what they said. They said, you know, we really like this approach. We actually already have in mind, like what we want to do. We have some numbers in mind on what we have to spend. And so you can send us over what you have, but we're also going to send you back what we're really interested in. And what that does is sometimes whenever you send over proposals, you have the pitch decks and everything, you place yourself in a box. Because how can you really tell what a brand desires and wants from you in a partnership if you've not had a discovery call with them first? So that's why I always highly recommend before you start shooting a bunch of stuff over about yourself, get an opportunity to actually share that over a phone call. When you look at the statistics of like how it is for in-person meetings or virtual meetings, you will find studies have shown that over 80% of people who go in meetings with brands over an email, or would you rather hop on a call with a brand and they get an opportunity to know who you are and you build an even more deeper relationship with that potential sponsor? I would take the latter because there's a more long-term, impactful experience at the end when you get on call versus just shooting over a pitch deck and making an ask.
No, that's such a thorough response and such a strong point now that I feel like I need to go do that. Like instead of being like, here is a pitch deck, just go and look through that. It's like, no, let's hop on a call, see how I can help you and see how you can help my audience and see how we could collaborate and establish that partnership. That human touch, I think it's so important. And that's what's lacking a lot of the time. Like people would outreach cold email me, cold call me, and they would ask for certain things. And most of the time I'm fine with that because they're partnerships, right? But at the same time, I'm like, but who are you really? Like, do you think it's a right fit just by, your research? I mean, for sure, we could be a right fit, but it would be great to have a chat first before diving into, oh, how can we work together and all these things that you can do for me? And I'm like, but give me a moment. I want to know more about you.
Absolutely. Which that now takes me into phase 4, which is all about the custom experience of pitching a brand. So what does that look like once you actually create the proposal? What's entailed in that? So once you've gotten on a discovery call with a brand, that's your opportunity to ask questions. And some of the questions that you can ask is, hey, what are some of your favorite partnerships? What have been some of your most successful partnerships? What do you look for in an ROI when it comes to your sponsorships? Those are really, really good questions to ask, because then at that point, you can now build a custom proposal off of everything that they described to you during that call. They're even willing to give you what their budget is. That's another question that you can ask them. So you're building out something that's very unique and custom to them. You put that in, inside of your custom deck that's specific to that brand, and you shoot at that custom proposal with anywhere from that same day to 2 to 3 days later after you've had a call with them. Then once they get it, they have a time to review it. And so phase 4 is really where you're putting together the custom deck and also closing the deal. Now, when you're closing that deal and creating the custom proposal, you want to ensure that if you have to negotiate, or if they don't just go for the price right away, maybe you do have some packages, you include that as well as the custom things that they've wanted. And maybe something happens and they're like, look, this is all we have. I always tell entrepreneurs that you should have your high, your mid, and your low, and your walkaway price. If they are not willing, if you have your high, it means, let's say maybe you really, really want to get $50,000 from this brand. So you can start at your high of, okay, let me price myself or this package or this opportunity at $65,000 or $60,000. And if they come back and say, hey, that's a little too much, how about we move this to maybe 58,000 or 57.5 or 50,000, and you say, all right, I can do that. I've landed where I want to be. But like you really want 50, but you're not willing to go. Your absolute lowest would be 45. If your absolute lowest is 45 and that brand is not willing to make it work, then you're like, hey, I got to walk away, because you never want a brand to come off. You never want them to never want it to seem as if you're very desperate for the opportunity and you absolutely need it. The other option that you have during this phase 4 is maybe the brand says, hey, we need to trim a few things off. What else can we do to make this work? Because a lot of times if it's your first time working with the brand, sometimes it's worth it to say, let me just see if I can make this work for them. And we can create, again, something that's very custom to their needs. And I can find a way to make it work at a price point that fits their budget. And if you're willing to make that work with the brand and you feel like it's a great opportunity, then by all means, go ahead and do it. But again, I always recommend there's a high, a mid, a low, and your walkaway price. When are you going to eventually say, I'm walking away from this? There's absolutely no way that I can do this. And then you go into phase 5, which is activating the opportunity. So you've agreed on everything. They've said yes. You've signed the dotted line. Everything's good. And now you're giving out the deliverables. You want to make sure that the same experience that you've provided to them in all 4 phases of this sponsorship sales process, that even after you deliver, you ask them for a feedback meeting. So once the deliverables have been done, you've completely activated the campaign, you now take time to hear back from them. You don't just collect a check. You hear from them, you gain their feedback, and you talk about, how can we do this again? This is your strategic way of saying, I have more ideas. I'd love to renew a contract with you. Let's take this up a notch for round 2 and do a longer term contract. And this is how you get the repeat contracts. But if you miss this phase of, number 1, asking for a feedback meeting, and then also providing them a report. I like to call it a deliverable fulfillment report. And it's where you are literally telling them and outlining all of the deliverables and telling them the success of each one, as well as maybe how you can improve or take it next level next time around. And those are the 5 phases of the sponsorship sales process. There you go. And the cycle, it continues. It's just you repeat the cycle over and over again, even with your repeat contracts.
I love it. I think these phases honestly are like so important to any kind of partnerships, any kind of sponsorships, any kind of relationships, really. Like you have to humanize it, right? You have to personalize it, customize it, and not treat a brand like like a robot or like a logo, right? There are people running it, people making decisions for the brand, for the company. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing these 5 phases. I do have a quick question. If an entrepreneur, a coach, a freelancer, like a brand today want to start looking for sponsorships or looking for partnerships, what is the first thing you recommend they should do to kind of get it going?
Yeah, so if you were someone that's looking for a partnership right away, I would highly recommend that you develop, again, going back into phase one and that early prospecting phase, is develop a healthy prospect list. That healthy prospect list should consist of anywhere from small to medium sized to large companies. Okay. And what is small, medium, large size companies? A very small business is likely going to have anywhere from 1 to 25 employees or 1 to 100 employees. I would even say maybe closer to like 1 to the 25 employees. Now, if you're going into a mid-sized company, I would say anywhere from 50 to 100 or 50 to like maybe 200 employees. And then you're going into the large company where this company has over 1,000 employees. But again, healthy size companies or a healthy prospect list. Now, of course, you still need to do that research piece, but maybe out of your list of brands, I would say take 15. If you have a list of 50 to 100 companies, take 15 of those companies and now begin to start pitching to them. Because I'm pretty sure once you reach out to them, so I'll give you an example of what I mean by that. I am in the process of decorating and designing my home. My husband and I, we've been in our home for about 3 years now. And I said, well, I want to pitch a lot of companies to get things sponsored in my home. And so I thought about every possible furniture store that I could reach out to. And here's the reason why I wanted to have multiple furniture stores. And I wanted to get our closet done. So multiple closet companies. I wanted to ensure that I didn't throw all of my eggs in one basket. But if I reached out to multiple furniture companies, the same idea that I'm pitching to one, I could pitch that to another. And so I started off with one furniture company, one closet company, another company that could do my pantry, sent those 5 emails just to see what kind of feedback or what kind of response would I get from them. So within, I would say 30 to 45 days, I was able to lock in contracts with about 6 different brands, 6 different brands. Yeah. So it doesn't take a long time at all when you really know specifically what it is that you're pitching, who you're pitching to, and you've done your research. I will also say part of the reason why those campaigns, they were so successful, and I have landed multiple contracts with those brands, they've been so successful because I took time to research previous campaigns that these brands had done. And I also looked for where I could help fill in the gap. So one of the brands, this was when the pandemic started, I saw that on their website that they were advertising, hey, we have interior designers who will come and design your home for free at no cost. And I'm like, wait a minute, you have virtual interior designers and this is a free service? I'm not seeing this advertised anywhere on your Instagram pages. Why on God's green earth are you guys not advertising? So that became my entire campaign for every single campaign that I pitched, because I saw an opportunity for them to really take this service that they were already offering to make it an even bigger thing. And what do you know? Sure enough, the rest of their campaigns were now all centered around their virtual design based on an idea that I proposed. So that's where, if you were someone who's looking to get started right away, find opportunity that can help solve a problem for a brand or help expand a service offering in a very unique way.
No, that's incredible. It's like you want to give them something. No, like they immediately would just get attached to you because they'll think, oh, I got this advice and I got these tips. That's so incredible. And now I can use that and grow my own marketing campaigns. I love the strategy that you use. Yeah, I need to start doing that for my furniture too. I love it. Okay. I know that I personally have learned so much, and I know that entrepreneurs that's listening right now probably want more from you. So where can we get this amazing freebie you have for us?
Yes. So I have an incredible training for all of you. All you have to do is go to thesponsorshiplady.com/training. And what that will take you to, it's more in depth. So the 5-phase sponsorship sales strategy, it literally goes into every single detail. The training is almost 2 hours long. It's actually probably a little longer than 2 hours, but it's filled with some great information on how you can really land your first brand partnership. Also, how you can really strategically position yourself to get anywhere from 4 to 5 to 6 figures in partnerships. So take advantage of that. Go and watch it, and send me a DM or an email after you've watched it. You can always go and follow me on Instagram at Jessica Chinyelu, and I'd be more than happy to answer any of your questions after you've watched that training.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll make sure to put all your socials, your training in the description box for anyone that's interested in grabbing those. Thank you again so much for being on your Entrepreneur Resources show. Love all the actionable tips and strategies that you've shared. For entrepreneurs that's listening right now, in case you want to get a summary of the interview, make sure to check out our show notes, which I'll link in the description box. We have our live interviews here with experts twice a week, so make sure to stay tuned and join our community. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone for tuning in. I'll chat with you very soon, and have a great rest of your day.